car, SUV, or truck, guess what? You're in luck. Frontier Motors is down the street. Got the best deals that can't be beat. Don't overpay, come in today. Doing business the old-fashioned way. Frontier, we got the right price. Frontier, we'll treat you mighty nice. Frontier Motors, low overhead country.
And I have the distinct privilege of introducing the owner of that fine company, who will be with us for the remainder of this half hour. Ready, willing, and more than able to take any questions from you concerning the price of a car, truck, or SUV that you're thinking of buying or selling or trading in. He'll tell you, I'll tell you. 476-1007 is the phone number, 476-1007. So let us proceed with Mr. Iven Streckel.
Hey, Don, thanks so much for the introduction. And we have a double format going on today. We're on AM radio, we're on FM radio, and we're also recording this for our cable viewers out there in the Pensacola area and beyond. And if you're watching this on TV right now, don't bother calling in, even though this is a call-in show. But if you're listening to this on the radio, this is a live show, and you can join us by getting a value on your car by dialing 476-1007. That's 476-1007. If you're outside the Pensacola area, just add an 888 in front of that, so it'd be 888-476-1007. And we bring to the radio show a little bit more information than you would get on the internet as far as values. If you Google car values on the internet, you're going to come up with a Kelly Blue Book. You're going to come up a version of this NADA guidebook that we use, and you're also going to come up with the Edmunds.com, which is a valuator. Unfortunately, the reason we don't use these is that most of the dealerships and most of the banks and credit unions in our area, they use the NADA guidebook, and the one that I've got in my hands right now is an official book. And you can't get this on the internet. And I don't know why the figures are different than the consumer's version of the NAD. You'd think it'd be the same, but they're not. So anyways, we bring these books with us to let you know what the bank is going to tell you your car's worth. We also bring with us the black wholesale guidebooks, and they look like the old little black books they talked about that the dealerships would normally not want to share with you. And the reason they don't want to share the information with you because it tells you maybe what a dealership would pay. And I just happened to open it up to a 2012 Toyota Venza. It says that average wholesale, not retail, is $20,200, and clean wholesale is $23,300. That gives us an idea that they're going somewhere between $20,000 and $23,000 at the auction with low miles on it. That's for a base LE model. Now, if I know what I can buy a car for, it gives me an indication that if I add the shipping, the auction fee, the buyer's fee, and then add on a profit, a small profit, because this is the Frontier Motor Show, low overhead country is what we always advertise. We've been advertising it for going on 17 years. That we do make a profit, but it's going to be a minor profit, normally quite a bit lower than what another dealership might charge you. And when we add that all up, we'll tell you this is what we can sell the car for. That might be thousands of dollars lower than the NADA. We do use the NADA guidebook, but sometimes it's right on. Sometimes it's actually a little bit low. For example, a Jeep Wrangler might have an older Jeep Wrangler might have a book value of $3,500, and you could sell that thing for $6,000 because Jeep Wranglers are in pretty good demand. Older Jeep Wranglers, they're hard to find for a decent one. And then sometimes on some of the luxury cars, it's completely the opposite, where the book value might be $35,000, but don't pay any more than $29,000. And that's one of the reasons that you call a show, because I can give you an idea of not only what the figure is, but how I come up with the figure. Don, do we have a call?
This is Chris, and he's right here in Pensacola.
Hey, Chris, thanks for calling the Frontier Motor Show. How can we help you?
Yeah, I've got a, thanks for taking my call first of all. I've got a 2000 Lexus RX 300.
Okay.
Transmission failed after about 102,000 miles. I'm just trying to determine whether I should try to sell it or trade it in as is, or would I be much better off putting in a rebuilt transmission or a new transmission? And I mean, I know I'd get more value out of it, but I'm just trying to weigh the pros and cons of each option, you know.
And I'm assuming that being a Lexus, that transmission's not a cheap date.
Pardon me?
I'm assuming that the transmission is pretty expensive.
Yeah, a brand new one is, absolutely. And apparently they've, you know.
Hey, Chris, let me ask you real quick, Chris. You got a 2000 RX 350. It's a two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive?
It's four-wheel drive.
Okay, so let me plug that in. I'm working on it right now.
It's an RX 300, not a 350.
Yeah, that's right, RX 300. And then tell me the miles again.
102,000.
102. Okay. Let me tell you what that vehicle would be worth if you retailed it. And I'm assuming you have a sunroof and the normal stuff on it, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, but I don't think they had navigation back then. Okay, the loan value, which is normally wholesale. This is what a dealer might pay. Let's forget about the transmission. Let's say it's in running order, air conditioning works. It's got some nicks and scratches. You know, it's going on 13 years old, so we don't expect it to be perfect. But let's say it's in good condition. The wholesale value is going to be somewhere around $7,000, and the retail is going to be somewhere around $10,000. Now, the retail would be what maybe you or I could retail it for if we purchased it, fix it up, and then put it on the market. And I'm thinking that the actual book value is $9,700. But I think the older Lexus, you got very low miles on it for the car being 13 years old. You know, normally 13 years times 10,000 would be 130,000, and 15,000 is the average miles. So about 160,000 is average miles. So you got quite a bit lower than average miles on. But I'm thinking that from a dealership standpoint, you know, the wholesale value is somewhere between 6 and 7, and retail value would be around 10. How much does it cost for the transmission?
I've got different prices. Used anywhere from $1,500 all the way up to $6,000 installed for a new one.
Boy, that's a big spread.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I guess the determining factor is if you could get that transmission to shift properly and still get good life out of it. I'm thinking you're better off fixing it if you can get it done for somewhere around the $2,000 mark. You start going higher than that, it gets a little iffy. Now, obviously, if it's going to cost you, $5,000 or $6,000, absolutely not. You know, you just trade in, because that vehicle, even without the transmission, might be worth to a dealership, might be so worth $3,000 to $4,000, maybe even a little bit more. So, you know, you'd hate to, if the value was $4,000 wholesale the way it is right now, and you put $6,000 into it, well, heck, that's almost like getting $10,000 for it if you didn't, if you saved your $6,000. So, I think if you can get it done for around $2,000, go ahead and fix it, because that car, it's kind of unusual. You know, you're one of the first people that I've talked to that has had an issue with a mechanical situation on a Lexus. Now, we've had things go wrong, like an oxygen sensor or things like that, but for an actual transmission to go out with 100,000 miles is kind of unusual.
I thought so, too. The only problem we've ever had with the car.
Yeah.
And it's a big one.
Yeah, it is a big one, unfortunately. But, Chris, thanks for calling the show, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks you. And if Chris is in the Pensacola area, if he shot me a couple pictures of it and the ID number, and I could look it up for him and give him a quote, because I've got a couple people that might be able to work on that transmission for less than what he can work on it. So if he's up for a new car anyways, the car's got 100,000 miles on it, it's 13 years old, going on 14, even if it was running, it'd probably be a good time to trade it. Well, it's still giving you a good life. And sooner or later, you're going to have to upgrade. The people that wait to upgrade their car when their car's worthless, they've got a big gap. For example, if you drive in with a $500 beater and you're looking at a $30,000 car, guess what? It's going to cost you $29,500. But if you drove in a car that's still got a value of $15,000 before it's worn out, now your gap is only $15,000. So sometimes I can talk somebody into trading a little bit more often rather than driving their car into the ground. And I think one of the reasons that a lot of people drive their car into the ground is because they hate buying a car. They hate the whole process. And that's where we come in at Frontier Motors, because we make that process so much easier for you. And one of the things that our salespeople do every morning, they come on the lot and they unlock every car door. And in a minute, right after we take this call, I'll tell you why we do that. Dan, who's calling?
This is Larry. He's from Mobile.
Larry, thanks for calling the Frontier Motor Show. How can we help you, Larry?
I was wanting to get a value on a 2006 Chevy Duramax Dually.
All right. Now, before you give me the information, Larry, let me ask you a question. Is this a vehicle you currently have and you're trying to figure out what it would be worth on trade, or maybe what you sell it for? Or is this a car you're thinking of buying?
Selling.
Okay, so we'll go use the NADA first, okay? And tell me the year again.
It's a 2006.
All right. And I'm going to ask you the questions if you don't mind, because my computer has a special format that we use. So instead of jumping all over the board, I'm going to ask you what it asked me. And you said it was a Duramax diesel. It's a 2500 or 3500?
3500.
Okay. And is it a dually?
Yes.
Crew cab dually.
Yes.
Okay. And is it an LS, an LT?
It has everything on it. Rear TV. The only option it doesn't have is the rear sliding window.
Okay, and it's a 4x4.
Yes.
Okay, so it does have leather.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna plug in LT. Tell me the miles.
44,000.
Ooh, my goodness, that is a very desirable unit. All right, the mileage ad, just for the miles alone, they add $3,300. Okay, you got alloy wheels. I'm sure you got a bed liner.
Yes.
And does it have running boards on the side?
Yes.
Okay. You said it had leather, so I'm going to add that. Power seat. And what about a sunroof?
Yes, it has a sunroof.
Okay. How about the DVD, the TV in the back, fold-down TV?
All of it.
All right. And you got the Duramax, so I'm going to add that. I'm going to add the DVD. And is it a Z71 off-road package?
Yes.
Okay, wow, you do have it all.
It's one of the few. How many times have we had somebody, when you ask them if they say it's loaded,
Yeah.
next thing you know, it doesn't have leather or a sunroof or...
Well, one thing, Don, that I'm not adding for the snowplow package.
Okay, well, that seems reasonable.
I just got back from Boston this weekend, Larry, and I found a Duramax like yours. We were walking down the side of the road and had a brand new plow on the front of it. And we all got in front of that plow and took a picture, because I'm from Wisconsin. I'm used to seeing plows, but I have been down here for 17 years. I haven't seen a snow plow yet. Larry, you got a pretty good value. I'm going to give you the retail first. It's got a $33,300 retail. Okay, now that's the book retail that a bank is going to quote you. Let's say you have a prospective customer and they're going to tennis shoot down to the local credit union. They're going to book it out like I just did. They're going to tell them it's got a book value of 33, and it's got a loan value. That's what I can borrow on it as a dealer of $27,200. So you got a pretty big spread. You've got almost a $6,000 spread between the low of the wholesale value of $27,000 and the high of the retail value of $33,000. Now we've got to remember it's still going on 8 years old, even though you got low miles, and let's assume it's in really good condition with 40,000 miles. I'm assuming it is, but I'm thinking that book value is probably a little bit high. I think if you're going to retail it, you'd probably have to keep it like in that $30,000 range. I think you can squeeze that out of it, and I think if you're going to go to a dealership like Frontier Motors or one of the other dealers, if they're fair with you, they're probably going to appraise it somewhere between $27,000 and $28,000.
Okay.
All right. What are you trying?
Right.
Let me ask you this: What are you trying to get out of it? What's your goal?
I hadn't really set a price on it yet. I was kind of wanting to go back to a 06 3/4 ton.
Okay.
But I hadn't really put a price on it yet. That's why I thought I'd call.
Yeah, and of course, the biggest issue that you're going to have is taxes. You know, let's say hypothetically you sold it for $30,000. Okay, somebody gave you a check for $30,000, and now you got to go to the dealership and buy a $30,000 3/4 ton. Well, now you've got to pay almost $2,000 in taxes. So that's why sometimes I can talk you into trading. Let's say I had a 3/4 ton the way you liked it in stock, which by the way I don't, but let's just assume that I did, and I could trade you for $2,000 or $3,000. It might be worth trading it in, even though I'll give you a little less for it, because number one, you don't have to mess around with trying to retail it yourself. No scamming, no people that are going to ask you to finance it, no people that are going to have a trade-in, that you don't want, and with such an expensive vehicle, if you stopped in at Frontier Motors, it might be worth your while for me to appraise it for you and tell you what I can get you a 3/4 ton with the year and the make and the model that you want, and I'll tell you how much it would cost to trade, and then that might make it a little easier for you to make that decision.
Okay. All right. That sounds good.
Thanks, Larry. Thanks for calling the show. I appreciate it. And Larry's obviously listening on the FM radio show, which is 100.7 FM, because he called all the way from Mobile, and we've been on FM since the first of the year in 2013. And we're really kind of broadened our horizons a little bit, because we're getting people from Mobile area, from Crestview, Fort Walton Beach, Panama City, that have never listened to the Frontier Motor Show before. In the years past, we've always been on 1370 AM radio. We've been doing that for 17 years now in the Pensacola area. And what our whole claim to fame is at Frontier Motors is that we are the dealer to go to when you need advice on what you should pay for a car, and not just what you should pay, but even advice on things like which car is a good car, a bad car, gas mileage, tow ratings, which car you can pull behind a motorhome. If you're looking at the consumer's reports, you don't want to subscribe to it. These are all things that we can give you for free. We can give you information as far as the history reports are concerned. We subscribe to Carfax and AutoCheck, so that if you are buying your neighbor's car, why pay $40 for a Carfax? I think you should do a history report on the car. They're not 100%, but I'll tell you, I do one on every car. And the reason is I want to know how many titles have been issued, where's the car been kept all its life, is it up north car, down south car, is there any issues with the car? I did one this morning that I did at the auction, and it said that it was a lemon law buyback. Well, I don't want to buy that car, even though it might be just fine. It's probably been repaired. I just don't want to have the reputation of selling a car like that, so I just go on to the next car. So the history reports are pretty cool to use, and we do them at Frontier Motors at no charge to you. We pay one fee, and we can rent as many as we want. I had a customer call the other day, 6 history reports we did for him. He was looking at 6 different cars, from Craigslist to the side of the road to Auto Trader, and he rattled off all the ID numbers, and then he came in and we printed them off for him, and he came and picked them up. We can also email them to you. We can fax them to you. There's a lot of ways that we can get you, or you can just call them and tell you it's clean. That's what people want to know. They don't necessarily have to have a copy of it. They just want to know is it a good car, bad car. The nice thing that we can do when you call to get your free history report because we have the ID number, obviously to get the history report, we need the ID number, which is on the windshield or the door of the car. It's a 17-digit number. It's also called the VIN number, VIN number, vehicle identification number. If you give us that number, we can plug it into our system to give you the history report, but our system goes one step further. It tells us every car like that within a 3 to 500 to a nationwide radius. So we can give you an idea of what are the competition selling the car for. Even if I don't have one like this on the lot, I can tell you what are they going for. So if you're looking at a car and it's selling for $25,000 and I'm seeing 8 of them in there for $22,000, well, the first thing I would tell you is I'm not telling you not to buy that car, but use the information that I give you to negotiate yourself a better deal. Whether that be from a private individual or whether that be from a dealership is immaterial. But if I can tell you, hey, pay 22 because that's what I can sell you a car for like that, then it'll give you ammunition. The other thing we can help you with is if we tell you what to pay for that car, the next question is, well, I've got this little old car that I'm trading. Next thing is, what's that car worth? Well, that's where we come in. Now, the best way to get an exact value is to drive the Frontier Motors at 230 Beverly Parkway in the middle of Pensacola and show us the car. Let me take it around the block and let me give you what I call a buy bid. Not just a book value like we're doing here on the radio show. These here are book values. These aren't concrete values because I haven't seen the car. You'll notice that when Chris and Larry called, I never asked them the color. What if they have a really ugly color? Do you think that would affect the price of the car? Well, okay, of course it would. It makes a big deal. And I always tell my buyers that buy for us, I says, if the car jumps out, it's just absolutely gorgeous, pay more. It's ticking. You pay for that. You pay for that new car feeling, that new car smell, because tomorrow it's used. And tomorrow, the depreciation is normally in one day $3,000 on almost any type of car. The reason is because if I'm selling that car on my lot, why would you buy a vehicle with 2,000 miles from me? It's a better deal. We advertise it's got to be a better deal. If it was the same price as new, you go buy the new one. So what we do is we give you a better deal. Well, to get the better deal, I've got to buy it at a better deal. And I'm looking at these rebates that I have from Automotive News. I've got the Automotive News magazine, and every week they print the rebates. And some of these rebates are astounding. For example, if you go to a Mitsubishi product, the 2012 Mitsubishi Galant has a $3,500 rebate. So if they have a leftover, which I find that hard to believe because the 14s are almost around the corner, another 3 months, the 14s will be out. They still have some 12 leftovers on the lot. That's why the rebate's $3,500. But if I have a 2012 used one, I look at the rebates before I buy that car, so I deduct the rebates off of the new car price. I deduct the markup off, and then I deduct another $3,000 to $4,000 off of that. Because I've got to be able to sell that car lower than not the list price, but the discounted price after rebates. So we do a lot of research before we put the hammer down at the market to buy the car because we have to know what we're doing. An example is right now, before Larry called, I had the auction report up, and this is an example of what's running in Orlando. And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but the Orlando Manheim auction, Manheim is the largest auction chain in the world. The first Manheim auction was actually from Manheim, Pennsylvania. It's a small cow town outside of Philly, about 2 hours. I used to drive up there when we first opened up the dealership. I used to fly there and then drive to Manheim. It's the largest auction in the world. That's where it started. They have over 100 auctions worldwide. We are lucky enough to have the second largest auction in the world in Orlando. And they run between 5,000 and 6,000 cars on a Tuesday morning. I'm already looking at next Tuesday, and they already have 3,500 cars registered for sale, and it's still 3 more days away. I'm looking at a 2013 Nissan Sentra with 8 miles on it.
But that's not a new car.
I have to sell used. It's actually new, Don.
Well, of course it is.
We're lucky enough to live in Florida. Florida is one of the only states that I can buy off an MSO. An MSO is what a new car, Nissan dealership gets when they buy the car brand new. They don't get a title. They get an MSO, which is called the Manufacturer Certificate of Origin. That's their form of ownership before it gets titled in the first person's name. I am one of the lucky dealers in Pensacola to be able to buy a brand new car. Now, you're right. I can't sell it as new. I can buy it. Now, originally when I moved down here from Wisconsin 17 years ago, in Wisconsin, you can't buy an MSO. When that car goes to the auction, if it's MSO, a big red sign comes up. And everybody, when this red sign is, usually that's as is or danger, danger. Well, the danger was if you're a used car dealership, you couldn't buy it. You had to be a Nissan dealership to buy that car for an MSO. Well, I can buy that car at the Nissan sale, and I have to sell it. I don't have to title it until the next person sold, but I have to mark the box used. As soon as I touch the car, the warranty clock starts ticking. Because now I am the first owner of the car. But if I save you $5,000 or $3,000, even if it's $2,500 and it's got 8 miles on it, wouldn't it be worth it versus buying a new one? Now, they have a 13 Corolla with 150 miles on it. They got 12 Titan with 400 miles on it. They have a 13 Kia Forte with 1,000 miles on it. How about a 13 Chevy Corvette with 2,000 miles on it? I can go on and on and on. There's 75 on a page right here that have less than 2,000 miles on. But I'm giving you the idea, folks, that if you're going to buy a brand new car, or you have a friend or relative or neighbor that says, hey, I'm going to buy a brand new car, tell them, call Frontier Motors first. The first thing we're going to do, instead of talking you out of buying a new car, we're going to help you. Because I have the new car cost guides. We subscribe to this book. It comes out about, I think I get about 5 of these a year. And the reason I get 5 of these instead of 1 is because prices change. And sometimes they introduce models throughout the year. But what they do, I'm just going to open up the first page. And here's an E250 Ford cargo van. It has a retail price of $28,785. It's got an invoice price, dealer cost price, of $26,555. Wouldn't that be great information to know if you're going to buy a new cargo van or any type of vehicle for that matter? They're all in this book, which I get, and I can share that information at no charge to you. So one thing we can help you with if you're a new car buyer is we can tell you what to pay for the new car. We can tell you what the rebates are and the incentives are. We can help you negotiate so you don't have to go back and forth. We can also let you know that we prefer for you to buy in the city, buy in Pensacola. If you're going to buy a Ford, go to World Ford. You might want to shop outside the area first on the internet, get your lowest price, then take that to World Ford, and then bring the trade to Frontier Motors. What if they appraise the vehicle for lower than we're appraising it for? And I'm not saying they're going to, but I find this happening a lot. Frontier Motors being an independent dealership, we have every make and model on the face of the earth. We'll buy anything. At the Ford dealership, they might not be too excited about a Lexus or a Porsche or a BMW. They might not even be too excited about their competition, which would be a Chevrolet Duramax, for example, like Larry had. You know, if he was going to buy a brand new Ford, they might hit that vehicle a little bit low because they don't really have too many people looking for Chevrolets on a Ford lot. They have a lot of people looking for used Fords on the Ford lot. So this is where we come in. At Frontier Motors, we're going to do an appraisal for you. We're going to tell you what they should give you. And if they don't give you that, we'll tell you if we will buy that vehicle for that price or not. Now, I've got 15 of them sitting there. I might not want to write you a check, but I'd still guide you into making sure that you don't get ripped off. That's what we do at Frontier Motors. We're talking about earlier as far as why do people not like to buy a car? Because they hate the process. At Frontier Motors, we make the process easy by unlocking every one of our cars every morning. We've got close to 300 cars in inventory. We've got 11 salespeople that grab about 25, 30 keys. Every car gets unlocked. And the reason we do that is so that you can shop at your leisure if you want. People hate the car buying. If you don't want a salesman to follow you around, you don't have to. A lot of people need a salesman. They come in their lunch hour. They know what they want. They need the salesman to pull the car up, tell them how many we have, and to do the pricing for them. I don't like negotiating. I know that goes against being a car dealership. I would rather tell you, here's what the NAD retail is, here's what I'm asking, and here's my bottom dollar. It makes it so simple. I know what I paid for the car. I'm going to add a small profit on it. It doesn't have to be negotiable. The only negotiating might be if you've got a trade-in because it's an opinion. We've got 4 people that look at cars at Frontier Motors. I try to get everybody together and get all of their opinions so we know what the high and low is, and we try to average that out to make sure we're giving you a fair value. And I have seen appraisals different from one dealer to the other, and it happened this week, and it was on a Chevy pickup truck with 200,000 miles on it. They went to a local dealership to trade in on a brand new car. The appraisal was $3,000. I got one of my buyers to look at the car. My appraisal was $7,000. That's a pretty good swing. If that customer would have not come to Frontier Motors and would have went to their local dealership where they were going to buy the brand new car, they would have got ripped off if they didn't know any better. Because I thought the $3,000, I was actually astounded. I didn't appraise the vehicle. We had a buyer that specializes in higher mileage vehicles, and he put $7,000 in the car. I was flabbergasted, and we gave all of that money to our buyer. We talked him into buying, and this is one of the few times I was able to actually buy a brand new car. I had to sell it as used, but we went to a new car dealership, bought the car because our appraisal was so much higher, and we were able to buy the car for the dealership. I don't normally do that, and normally this is an extreme situation, but normally what I would do is talk into buying a car that's maybe the current model year, which would be a 2013, and get one with maybe 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 miles on it and save you a bunch of money. If it's a car that just came out, like if it's I'll give you an example, Ford Fusion Hybrid. They just came out with those cars, and the Mercury, which is and I'm going to look it up. The Lincoln, not the Mercury. Mercury's out of business, but Lincoln has a MKZ Hybrid, which is the same car as a Ford Fusion. So what we do, that car just came out, And I've got 2 locates on one, but because it just came out, it's going to take maybe another month or 2 before I can get that car. But boy, can we save you some money. But if I can't get the car right now, I'm going to tell you, go buy a new one. I'll tell you what to pay, but I'll help you out with the trade-in. So if you decide also to buy a used car, people come in all the time and say, hey, what do you got for a $5,000 Honda product? Well, if I get one, it'll be gone before it hits the internet. So I always tell people, leave your name and number, because we do get those vehicles in trade. We don't go out and buy those vehicles because you never know what's wrong with them. The auction, the older vehicles, they sell as is, so I can't buy an old vehicle at the auction because I never know what I'm getting. I can buy a new vehicle because they guarantee them. But the older ones, I'm going to take in trade so I can talk to the owner. I can take it for a ride. I can get it checked up by my mechanic. And then I can, if the car passes inspection, and I'll give you an example, folks. I got a real high mileage Mustang right now. I got a 2000 Ford Mustang, which took in trade with 160,000 miles on it. And it passed mechanical inspection. It's got a couple dings and dents in it. I'm not going to fix it up. But I could sell that car for $3,500. It's a sporty, nice kid's car. Air conditioning works. It's a really good vehicle. It is a manual transmission. I wish a lot of kids these days can't drive a manual, but I bought it cheaper because it was a manual. But here's a car I can sell for $3,500. Going to make somebody a great car, and it's sitting on the lot right now, and it won't last. Once it hits the internet, it'll be gone. And that's not the typical vehicle that we sell, but not everybody can afford a $25,000 car. I read in Automotive News the other day that the average used car is selling for $22,000. The average new car is selling for over $30,000. So that's a pretty big spread, an $8,000 spread. And a lot of times I convince a customer to buy a 1 or 2 year old car to save that $8,000. But Frontier Motors located 230 Beltway Parkway. Our phone number at Frontier Motors is 850-436-8080. And the reason I'm giving you that, it's probably on the bottom of your screen if you're watching this on TV, is if you want to call for a value or Google our website, there'll be a map on there. If you're from outside the area, don't know where to us, it'll zoom right to the map and give you directions how to get there. You're going to see about 300 cars in inventory. Most of them have prices on there. If they don't have a price, email us right away or call us and we'll give you a price within minutes. We've got 30 detailed photographs on it. And Darren Skid, our finance manager, wanted me to mention that finance rates are the lowest they've been since I've been in the car business. And folks, I've been in the car business for a long time. I'm very, very old. I started when I was 15 years old as a lot kid. And when I started, the interest rates back in the 70s were 18 and 19%. And they're down in the ones. I saw a customer the other day down. He had 1.5% from a credit union.
Wow.
Now it was a short term, and he had a lot of money down. He had a Beacon score higher than Rockefeller, but it's available. Money is so darn cheap. The average interest rate anywhere from 2 to 4% right now. If you've got a mild, a medium Beacon score, as I call them, beacons. But interest rates are at all-time low, and Frontier Motors, you can get the same, if not lower rates than you can get at your credit union. And the nice thing is you can do it right there. You don't have to apply, wait for the check to be printed, come on back, do all the paperwork. If we can meet or beat the bank that you're dealing with, why not just do it right at Frontier Motors? Makes it so much easier for you. So I told Darren I'd tell him that. And Frontier Motors, again, is located at 230 Beverly Parkway. Our website is frontiermotorsinc.com. But just Google Frontier Motors. We're the first website that comes up. And I want you to remember that if you're buying a new car today, tomorrow morning it's used. So come to Frontier Motors and buy the car that's almost new. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Got the best deals that can't be beat. Don't overpay. Come in today. Doing business the old-fashioned way. Frontier. We got the right price. Frontier. We'll treat you mighty nice. Frontier Motors. Low overhead country.